Hey guys, it's Zig from Two Smoke. Today I'm going to show you what I look for when I rebuild carburetors. I'm also going to teach you how to do a fuel pump pressure test as well as a pop-off pressure test. So if you enjoyed the video, at the end, please hit subscribe and share. Thanks, God bless. This is a single 40mm carburetor off of a 97 type Seadoo. This guy called me and said, I have a junk ski in my backyard, take whatever you needed. So I went over and found this carburetor. So right off the bat, you could tell that these threads on this throttle shaft are stripped. So we're gonna have to replace it with the new one. Luckily I have a new shaft. When I'm inside the carburetor, a couple things I look for. Obviously, I look for obvious signs of corrosion. Next thing, I take a look at scratches, see how well it was cleaned in the past. But fortunately, this carburetor looks clean so far, so we're going to dig more into this. Now that I have the valve body assembly off, I'm going to take a closer look. Inside the carb, it looks pretty clean. I don't see any ethanol gumming. I don't see any aluminum rust. The scratches are a minimum, but I don't see any paint chips either. So the next step is to take these high-speed and low-speed jets out. You know, it's always good to take a look, clean them out, and make sure there aren't any paint chips in there. One thing that I do suggest is that you use the correct width screwdriver, and also that you are gentle when taking them out. Sometimes this low-speed jet, whether it is old or it's been through the elements, sometimes they disintegrate. So you have to be very careful, because if you get one stuck and you can't get it out, the only other option is to drill in there, and that is a pain in the butt. Now that I have the fuel pump body off, let's take a closer look. And just like the other side, it is pretty clean. And when disassembling this, you can tell that the parts are new in here. So one thing that we need to do is take a closer look at the carburetor rebuild parts that were put in. So whoever rebuilt this must have just put it in the ski before they parted it out. So looking at this O-ring, alright, you want to make sure it fits the grooves perfectly. If it bulges out like it's too large, you want to get rid of that. It's probably an aftermarket kit, but this one seems pretty good. Not only that, it is raised above the aluminum, so that's going to give it a tight seal. This clear diaphragm looks good. I'm not going to touch that because it's on pretty tight. I have some other diaphragms just in case this doesn't pass pressure test. And then looking at the pump body here. Alright, these diaphragms look new. And one thing you want to take a closer look is the mating surface. You do not want any pitting marks You know, believe it or not, I have taken apart these and have seen indents that cause the fuel pump not to maintain pressure. So looking at this O-ring is very good as well. Let's take a look at this needle seat. 9 out of 10 times I replace these when rebuilding carburetors, but you don't always have to. The one thing that you really need to look for is if there is a clear defined indentation line across this rubber tip, that means you need to replace the needle. And usually when you buy this, it comes, you know, together as a package. You know, but over the years I've accumulated needles that are in perfect condition. So let's just say if this needle is bad, I can just throw a new one in there. But for this carburetor, this needle is good. Before we reassemble this carburetor, we're going to spray this down with carb cleaner and we're going to blow it out with compressed air. The one thing that you want to do is just make sure you hit all of the ports. And then when you blow it out with compressed air, one helpful tip is that you take your fingers and plug these high and low speed adjuster holes up. It's going to help create more pressure and it's going to help dislodge any debris that might be stuck so that you are not having any acceleration issues.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
Before putting it back in the ski, you need to do 2 main pressure tests. The first one is going to be done on the fuel pump. So what you're going to do with your pressure tester, you're going to blow it up to 5 to 10 psi, and what you're looking for is it's going to maintain a pressure above 5 psi. If it drops below 5 psi, it's indicative of some type of air leak. You either have issues with the aluminum mating surface, maybe there might be indentation, scratches that are letting air past that diaphragm. The screws might not be tight enough, but regardless, your fuel pump is not going to work correctly. The other test you're going to do is the pop-off pressure test. I'm not going to go in depth about what pop-off is, but it does directly affect your acceleration off of idle. So not having that within the Seadoo specifications is going to cause you issues. All right, but I'm going to show you how to do that test right now. So what you're going to do is you are going to block off the return port and you're going to attach your pump to the fuel inlet port, and you can see it's indicated by these arrows. All right, so our pump wants to be attached to the nipple going in, and you want to block off the one going out. And you can also use your thumb for this, but you know, with carburetors with high pop-off pressures, you're gonna probably need something more reliable, like a you know, like this blocked off tube I have right here.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.
Okay, so we had a pop-off pressure about 41, 42 there. We are gonna repeat this again. And with it, if it's under 43 psi, with this carb, that's within spec. Now I don't like it that high, so what I'm eventually going to do is change out that silver spring to an 80 gram black spring, and we're going to repeat this test. And when you get that number, you want to make sure you get that number 3 times in a row. So you're gonna release the pressure. You are going to press on this needle here, and you're going to fill that back up with WD-40. Okay, I went ahead and changed out that silver spring with an 80 gram black spring. And doing this actually changed the pop-off pressure from 42 to 30 psi. When you have a high pop-off pressure, oftentimes you will either hesitate or stall when accelerating off of idle. And this is the reason why. When your pop-off pressure is too high, it delays the moment that this diaphragm pushes down on this lever here. Let me get this lever off. So it's going to push down on that lever, which allows fuel to enter the chamber and go through the jets. And when that is delayed, all right, you are running lean for a moment of time. Think when you're pressing that throttle, that butterfly allows air to go through into the manifold. But when you increase the amount of air into your engine, you also have to increase the amount of fuel. And in that moment of time, all right, if that's delayed, you are running lean, and that could cause a lean hesitation, or it could cause a stall. So lowering that pop-off pressure is actually going to help me have a smoother transition from idle to quarter speed.